I grew up in a tight-knit family where we always had each other's backs. When I became a successful software engineer, I was thrilled to finally help the people who raised me. For years, I happily shared my earnings with my parents and siblings, never questioning if this was right or sustainable. But everything changed the day I discovered what my generosity had created. That moment forced me to make the hardest decision of my life. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I finally stood up for myself when my family thought they owned my money. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood on the south side of Chicago taught me the value of family unity early on. My parents, Tom and Diane, worked multiple jobs to keep food on the table for me and my siblings. Dad was a construction worker who took on weekend handyman jobs while Mom cleaned houses and worked evening shifts at a local diner. Despite their exhaustion, they never complained. Our family mantra was simple: family helps family. When Dad's brother lost his job, we squeezed into our small 3-bedroom home to give him somewhere to stay. When my grandmother needed expensive medication, everyone pitched in what they could. This was just what you did for the people you loved. My brother Jack is 4 years older than me. He was always the charismatic one, popular in school but not particularly interested in academics. My sister Amanda is 3 years younger, smart and determined, but faced challenges as a young single mother right after high school. Life got significantly harder when I was 16. Dad fell from scaffolding at a construction site, severely injuring his back. The workers' compensation barely covered our basic needs, and Mom had to take on even more hours. I started working at a local grocery store after school, contributing what little I earned to help with bills. Watching my parents struggle ignited something within me. I promised myself I would create a better life, not just for me, but for all of us. School became my focus. I studied relentlessly, earning scholarships that covered most of my college expenses. The remainder I handled through student loans and working part-time jobs. Computer science fascinated me, and I discovered I had a natural aptitude for coding. My dedication paid off when I graduated near the top of my class and landed an entry-level position at a growing tech company in Chicago. The starting salary was modest by industry standards, but it felt like a fortune compared to what my family had lived on. The first time I helped my family financially was when Mom called about their electricity being shut off during a particularly cold January. Without hesitation, I paid the $300 bill and added extra to keep them covered for the next month. The relief in her voice made every hour of overtime worth it. As my career progressed, so did my ability to help. When I was promoted to senior developer at 27, my salary nearly doubled. I helped Jack with rent when he was between jobs, contributed to Amanda's nursing school tuition, and bought my parents a reliable used Toyota to replace their constantly breaking down vehicle. Every time I helped, the gratitude from my family validated my success. When I paid off my student loans ahead of schedule, I increased the amount I regularly sent to my parents. I started saving for a down payment on a home, but put my own goals on a longer timeline. Family came first, just as I had been taught. The first warning sign came about a year after my promotion. Jack called asking for $5,000 for a business opportunity. When I asked for details, he was vague, mentioning something about merchandise resale with a friend. Against my better judgment, I transferred the money. 2 weeks later, I saw photos on his social media account. Jack was lounging on a beach in Cancun with his girlfriend. The business opportunity was nowhere in sight. When I confronted him during our next family dinner, his response stunned me. "Why are you counting dollars, Ansel? We are family. If I needed a vacation to reset, is that so wrong? You make more in a month than I make all year." My parents chimed in, suggesting I should be happy to help my brother. After all, we were fortunate that at least one of us was doing well. The conversation quickly shifted to other topics, but something had changed inside me. I felt used. A similar situation happened with Amanda. I had given her $2,000 for emergency childcare when her regular babysitter quit without notice. The following week, she posted pictures of a brand new iPhone and designer purse. When I gently questioned this, she became defensive. "Do you think I do not deserve nice things just because I am a single mom?" The childcare situation worked itself out, and I needed to replace my phone anyway. Despite these incidents, the requests continued. My parents began serving as intermediaries, calling to explain why Jack or Amanda needed help again. Medical bills, car repairs, school expenses for my niece. Each time I found myself transferring money while postponing my own financial goals. The pattern of exploitation became increasingly obvious over the next 2 years. Jack rarely held a job for more than a few months, always with some dramatic reason for quitting that somehow required financial assistance. Amanda completed her nursing degree, but struggled to find full-time work, perpetually needing help with expenses for my niece Taylor. My parents never directly asked for money for themselves, but they facilitated the requests from my siblings and expressed disappointment whenever I hesitated. Family gatherings became uncomfortable affairs, where my success was celebrated briefly before conversations inevitably turned to financial challenges faced by everyone else. During one particularly difficult Easter dinner, my father raised a toast to my recent promotion to lead developer. "To Ansel, whose hard work makes life better for all of us," he said while everyone nodded in agreement. Within an hour, Jack was pulling me aside to discuss covering the security deposit for his new apartment, and Amanda was hinting about Taylor needing braces. I started hiding my achievements. When I received a substantial performance bonus, I told no one. When my company awarded me stock options, I kept it to myself. The guilt was overwhelming, but so was the resentment. I found myself making excuses to miss family gatherings, knowing they would inevitably end with someone asking for money. The anxiety began affecting my sleep and work performance. On the recommendation of a colleague, I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Ramirez. For the first time, I spoke openly about the situation without fear of judgment. He helped me see that my relationship with my family had become transactional and unhealthy. "What would happen if you said no the next time they asked?" Dr. Ramirez questioned during one session. "I could barely imagine it. They would think I do not love them anymore," I replied. "Is love measured by financial support in your family?" he asked, leaving me speechless. Around this time, I began working closely with Sophia, a new product manager at my company. Unlike most people I encountered, she asked about my interests and goals without any underlying agenda. When I mentioned my long-delayed plan to buy a home, she encouraged me to prioritize it. Our working relationship gradually evolved into friendship and eventually romance. 6 months into dating, Sophia accompanied me to a family birthday celebration for my mother. I watched her expression change as she observed the familiar pattern unfold: praise for my success, followed by not-so-subtle hints about financial needs. In the car afterward, she asked, "Does this happen every time you see your family?" When I confirmed it, she shared her perspective. "Ansel, in my family, we celebrate each other's successes without expectations. This dynamic seems unbalanced." Sophia came from a middle-class family with healthy boundaries. Her parents had helped with her college expenses, but expected her to make her own way afterward. They took pride in her accomplishments, without viewing them as resources to exploit. Her relationship with her brother was based on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. Through conversations with Sophia and continued therapy, I gradually recognized that enabling my family's financial dependence was not actually helping them. Jack had no incentive to maintain stable employment. Amanda was not developing financial independence. My parents, though well-intentioned, were reinforcing an unhealthy dynamic. With Dr. Ramirez's guidance, I attempted to establish boundaries. I created a budget, allocating a specific amount each month for family assistance, dividing it between my parents and siblings. I scheduled a Sunday dinner, specifically to discuss the new arrangement. "I want to continue helping everyone," I explained, "but I need to create some structure. I have my own financial goals, too." The response was immediate and harsh. My mother began crying, asking what they had done wrong to deserve such treatment. Jack accused me of becoming selfish since I started dating Sophia, suggesting she was turning me against my family. Amanda simply left the table and refused to speak to me for the remainder of the evening. My father pulled me aside afterward. "Son, family is not about spreadsheets and budgets. We have always helped each other without keeping score." Why start now? I left feeling guilty and confused. Within a week, I abandoned the budget plan and resumed responding to requests as they came. But something had changed. Each time I transferred money, the resentment grew stronger. My relationship with Sophia became strained as she witnessed me continually sacrificing my well-being and our future together. Around this time, Jack experienced what he called a financial emergency, requiring $3,000 to avoid eviction. After sending the money, I discovered through a mutual friend that he had used it for gambling debts. Amanda requested help with Taylor's summer camp fees, then posted vacation photos from an expensive resort. Each betrayal of trust cut deeper than the last. I began hiding aspects of my life from my family. When Sophia and I discussed moving in together, I told no one. When I received another promotion with a significant salary increase, I kept it secret. The distance between us grew not from lack of contact, but from lack of honesty. Sophia stood by me patiently, but she did not hide her concern. "I love you, Ansel, but I cannot watch you sacrifice your happiness indefinitely," she told me. After I canceled our weekend getaway to cover Amanda's car repair. "At some point, you need to decide what kind of life you want." After 2 years together, Sophia and I were ready for the next step in our relationship. We had been saving for a down payment on a house, combining our resources to afford something in a neighborhood with good schools for the future we planned together. The amount sat in a special savings account, representing countless overtime hours and frugal living choices. Then came the call that changed everything. My mother phoned sobbing about an urgent family emergency. They needed exactly the amount Sophia and I had saved, $25,000. It was for medical treatments not covered by insurance, she explained, though she remained vague about details. The familiar guilt swept over me, and I promised to transfer the money immediately. Before completing the transaction, I called my father for more information about these medical treatments. He seemed confused, then quickly covered with vague assurances. Something did not feel right. For the first time, I decided to investigate before sending money. The next day, I visited my parents unannounced, arriving just as a delivery truck was unloading a large package. To my shock, it was a brand new 70-inch smart TV and high-end sound system. My brother was directing the installation, looking not at all concerned about any medical emergency. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely controlled. Jack looked surprised to see me. Mom and Dad's anniversary present from all of us. Surprise ruined, I guess. The pieces fell into place. My mother appeared from the kitchen, stopping short when she saw my expression. I pulled out my phone and showed her the banking app with the pending transfer. "Is this what the emergency medical expense was for?" "A television." Her face flushed. "We were going to tell you after it was set up. We thought you would be happy to contribute to something that brings joy to the family. We can all watch games and movies when everyone visits." Something broke inside me at that moment. Years of suppressed resentment crystallized into clarity. This was not about family helping family. This was exploitation, plain and simple. I canceled the transfer on the spot and left without another word, ignoring the calls and texts that immediately followed. When I told Sophia what happened, she held me as I processed the complex emotions of betrayal and grief. For the first time, I saw the situation with complete clarity. With support from Dr. Ramirez, I prepared for a confrontation I had avoided for years. I needed to establish boundaries, not just financial ones, but emotional ones as well. I spent a week rehearsing what I would say, preparing for the emotional manipulation I knew would follow. The following Sunday, I requested a family meeting at my parents' house. Everyone was present: my parents, Jack, Amanda, even my niece Taylor, though she played in another room. I had asked Sophia to wait nearby, knowing I would need her support afterward. "I have something important to discuss with everyone." I began, my heart pounding. "For years I have been helping financially, because I love you all. But the situation has become unhealthy for everyone involved." I explained my perspective, calmly detailing specific instances where my trust had been violated. I outlined the toll it had taken on my mental health and my relationship. I emphasized that I was not cutting them off completely, but would only help with legitimate emergencies going forward after full transparency. The reaction was worse than I had anticipated. Jack immediately went on the offensive. "So your fancy girlfriend thinks she is too good for our family, and now you do too. We have always been there for each other, and now that you have money, you want to abandon us." Amanda tearfully accused me of not caring about Taylor's future. "How will she go to college if you will not help? Do you want her to struggle like we did?" My parents attempted to mediate at first, but as the conversation continued, they ultimately sided with my siblings. My mother suggested that perhaps I had forgotten where I came from and who had sacrificed for me. My father reminded me of all the times the family had supported each other before I had money. "If you loved us, this would not even be a question," my mother said quietly, delivering the emotional blow she knew would hurt most. I had anticipated this response, but still found myself shaking. "Love is not measured by financial support," I said, repeating Dr. Ramirez's words. "Real love respects boundaries and does not exploit generosity." The conversation devolved from there. Jack called me selfish and ungrateful. Amanda suggested Sophia had poisoned me against them. My father, usually the peacemaker, delivered the ultimate ultimatum. "In this family we help each other without question. If you cannot do that, perhaps you need to reconsider if you want to be part of this family at all." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. I looked at each of their faces, these people I had loved and supported for years now, unified against me for wanting basic respect. In that moment, my decision became clear. "I will always love you," I said, standing to leave, "but I deserve better than this. When you are ready to have a relationship that is not based on what I can provide financially, you know how to reach me." I left amid a stunned silence that quickly erupted into angry calls for me to come back. I got into my car where Sophia waited and drove away, hands still trembling on the steering wheel. The aftermath was immediate and intense. My phone exploded with text messages and voicemails ranging from angry accusations to tearful pleas. Extended family members I barely spoke to called to tell me how disappointed they were in my behavior. Friends of the family reached out to encourage reconciliation, having heard only my family's version of events. For the first time in my adult life, I blocked my family's numbers. The guilt was overwhelming, but the sense of having done something necessary for my survival was stronger. Sophia held me that night as I processed the complex emotions of grief, relief, and uncertainty. "You did the right thing," she reassured me. "It took incredible courage to stand up for yourself." I was not so sure. Had I destroyed my family over money? Was I the selfish one after all? These questions plagued me in the weeks that followed, but with distance came clarity. Dr. Ramirez helped me recognize that the issue was never about money itself, but about respect and exploitation. For 3 months, I maintained minimal contact with my family. I sent brief responses to direct questions, but declined invitations to family gatherings. During this time, I focused on rebuilding parts of my life I had neglected while catering to everyone else's needs. Sophia and I finalized the purchase of our first home, a modest 3-bedroom house with a yard in a neighborhood we loved. We spent weekends painting and decorating, creating a space that was truly ours. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of ownership over my life and choices. I reconnected with college friends. I had lost touch with people who valued me for myself rather than what I could provide. I took up rock climbing, something I had always wanted to try, but never made time for. I started mentoring junior developers at work, finding fulfillment in helping others grow professionally. Therapy continued to be crucial during this period. Dr. Ramirez helped me work through the deep-seated belief that my worth was tied to financial provision. We explored the origins of this belief in my childhood experiences and worked on developing healthier perspectives. "Your value as a person is not measured by your utility to others," he reminded me in our sessions. Gradually, the guilt subsided, replaced by a growing sense of self-respect. I realized I had been enabling behaviors that were ultimately harmful not just to me but to my family members themselves. Jack had no incentive to develop financial responsibility. Amanda remained dependent, rather than building confidence in her own capabilities. My parents continued patterns of emotional manipulation rather than developing healthier relationship dynamics. The first sign of change came unexpectedly. 3 months after our confrontation, my mother called. Instead of making demands or attempting to induce guilt, She simply asked if we could meet for coffee. After discussing it with Sophia and Dr. Ramirez, I agreed. The conversation was awkward at first, filled with small talk about the weather in her garden. Eventually, she addressed the elephant in the room. "I have been thinking about what you said," she admitted, "about boundaries and respect. I cannot say I fully understand your perspective, but I miss having you in my life. Whatever that looks like now." It was not an apology, but it was a starting point. We began with short occasional visits, sticking to neutral topics. Gradually, my father joined these meetings equally reserved, but making an effort. They never directly acknowledged the harm they had participated in, but their behavior changed. The requests for money stopped. Conversations focused on our lives and interests rather than financial matters. My siblings took longer to come around. Jack remained resentful, convinced I had betrayed the family by withholding financial support. Our interactions were strained when we occasionally saw each other at my parents' house. Amanda, however, surprised me with her eventual understanding. 6 months after the confrontation, she called to tell me she had secured a full-time nursing position with benefits. Instead of asking for help, she wanted to share her accomplishment. "I realized I was using you as a safety net rather than pushing myself," she admitted. "It was easier to ask for help than to face the fear of failure." We began rebuilding our relationship slowly. I got to know my niece Taylor again this time, as an uncle who took her to museums and helped with science projects rather than just writing checks. When Amanda faced legitimate challenges like unexpected car repairs, we discussed options that empowered her rather than fostered dependency. I created a small, transparent emergency fund, specifically for genuine family crises. The rules were clear: full disclosure of the situation, evidence of the need, and a plan for preventing similar emergencies in the future. The fund was limited, protecting my financial health while still providing a safety net for true emergencies. My relationship with my parents gradually improved, though it never returned to the unquestioning closeness of before. They came to understand that my boundaries were not a rejection of them, but a necessary condition for a healthy relationship. We found new ways to express love that did not involve financial transactions. Jack remained the most distant. He continued to struggle financially, bouncing between jobs and relationships. Occasionally he would reach out, usually when he needed something, but our conversations remained superficial. I hoped that someday he would recognize the patterns in his own life, but I accepted that I could not force that realization. A year after the confrontation, Sophia and I got engaged. We held a small celebration at our home, inviting close friends and family. My parents attended, as did Amanda and Taylor. Jack declined the invitation. The gathering was not without tension, but it represented progress nonetheless. Looking back at my journey from financial enabler to assertive individual, I recognize how much I have grown. I learned that true generosity comes from choice, not obligation, and that enabling harmful behavior is not an act of love. I discovered that respect is a necessary foundation for any healthy relationship, familial or otherwise. Most importantly, I learned that saying no does not make me selfish or uncaring. It makes me a person with healthy boundaries, who values himself enough to expect respect. This understanding has improved every relationship in my life, not just with my family, but with friends and colleagues as well. Today I still help my family when appropriate, but the dynamic has fundamentally changed. Help is given freely, not demanded or manipulated. Transparency and respect are required, and my own needs and goals are given equal priority to those of others. The journey was painful, but the destination was worth it. If you have ever struggled with family members who feel entitled to your resources, remember that you deserve relationships based on mutual respect. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is necessary for your well-being and ultimately for truly healthy relationships with those you love. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family or friends? How did you handle it? Leave a comment below sharing your experience. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content about navigating challenging relationships. Remember, you deserve respect in every relationship in your life. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the courage to stand up for yourself when necessary.